I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible.
When you say you're going to do something, you do it.
I do solemnly swear
There is no starting or stopping, only doing.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
You gotta protect it.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
In the name of democracy, let us all unite!
All right. Welcome back to the Progressive Patriots. Just me. Like I think I said, it's been a while since I've been here. Surprising how much you can find to do when you're putting something off. I like that intro that I cut together. I thought that was pretty good, but we'll see how that goes. I have been, interestingly, to me it's interesting. I've been getting a lot, anytime I post anything with the Progressive Patriots branding or logos or anything, I get a lot of enlightened. Is anarcho-centrist a thing? Is that a thing? I don't know. But I get a lot of those types that are telling me where I can put which orifice I can shove my ideas into, which isn't very polite, but oh well. What's interesting, what I find humorous is it's really subtle. The incorrect grammar. It's really, really subtle, but it's like uncanny valley. It's just something about it seems off. So I started. What I like is that a lot of these people claim to be veterans as well, and that they're like the quote unquote both sides are the same kind of people. So it's what's intriguing is that I assume that they don't listen to a single second of this, which whatever. But a lot of them claim to be veterans, and then they're advocating for dissolving the Constitution, which is kind of the whole point of the oath of enlistment, which is what I cut into the beginning. I did it for that exact reason, so that in the off chance these, I think they're, it's troll farms in probably state sponsored in China or Russia, one of the two. Just my thinking, because that's what it seems like. The profiles are extremely generic, and they give as little detail as possible. Which, even if you're privacy minded like I am, with my personal accounts, yeah, it's still strange. But there you go. I'm assuming that they're not listening. I'm assuming I'm gonna get a lot of messages from them telling me what a fucking soy boy government shill I am, or whatever. Whatever. If you're hearing this, if you're actually listening and saying that to me, that's okay, actually, because if you took the time to at least hear me out, I'm all about some positive dialogue here, constructive dialogue. So maybe tone it down and we can have some conversations. If you actually want to have a conversation and not just, fucking talk at me. Oh, it is 23:40 on Monday, February 5th. Oh, man. I was expecting to come back sooner, but I haven't, obviously. But I did a lot of following up, and this, depending on how long it goes for time, will be, I think I'm going to keep this just oriented in Asia. There's a lot of shit going down in, with the Philippines, as you're about to find out. So, and of course the stuff in Taiwan, and a little bit in Korea, and a few other spots. But let's get into the goods. All right, so there's some developments in the South Asia Sea. Remember, we're not calling it giving it the Chinese brand anymore. It's a few weeks ago, the Philippines announced that they're going to be developing some of the atolls, the little islets in the Spratly chain, and they picked a select few because they can't do all of them at once. That was from the AFP chief. The AFP is Armed Forces Philippines. AFP chief Romeo Bronner. The most notable of these islets is this one. The Filipino name for it is Pag-asa, and it's known also as Thitu. I'm not entirely certain where that name came from, but that little island chain, this one in particular is about 300 miles west of Palawan. The Philippines is kind of divided into 4 regions, since it's an archipelago collection of like 7,500 different islands, right? So there's the Luzon is at the top, Visayas is in the middle, and Mindanao's at the bottom. That's where the Muslim terrorists or whatever, Muslim separatists are at. And then Palawan is it's just a single island way off on the left. Beautiful place. Also very poor. On the weekend, a civilian ship from the Philippines landed on one of the Spratly islets, and I think they were, if I read correctly, they were there to deliver supplies for that old ship that Philippines grounded in the Spratly chain, as to reinforce their claims of sovereignty of the area. Okay, let's see. Moving along. So, spoiler, if you haven't heard by now, Lai Ching-te, aka William Lai, of the Democratic Progressive Party in Taiwan, was elected president. Now, what is notable here is that the Filipino president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., contacted Lai directly. Now, the problem with that is that China claims Taiwan as a territory, right? So for Ferdinand to reach out to William directly, it kind of implies that the sovereignty claim, it affirms the sovereignty claim by the Philippines, which, given the way that China and the Philippines beef in the South Asia Sea, makes perfect sense that Marcos would do that. We'll get into that a little bit more different details, I guess, kind of tangential. What did he say? We look forward to close collaboration, strengthening mutual interests, fostering peace, and ensuring prosperity for our peoples in the years ahead. And I think hedging bets here, the foreign ministry released an official statement that Philippines is, quote, committed to its one China policy, end quote. So that's kind of fun. I'm going to call your fucking nemesis here, but I'm also going to say that he's subservient to you. Way to go. Here's I think a good one. Philippines and Canada, they signed a mutual defense and cooperation agreement, which is pretty cool. The pact includes some education. I'm not sure who to who, but probably cross training. They're going to do some personnel exchanges. They've agreed to intel sharing, and more for the Filipinos, I think, is a disaster response and peacekeeping assistance from the Canadians. They're going to establish a I don't know if it's SOFA, but they're having SOFA. Sorry, it's status of forces agreement. So, like an example is what like the U.S. troops that are stationed in Korea or Japan, right? So the status of forces agreement is how the host nation sort of cedes a little bit of jurisdiction to the U.S. If an American troop in particular, or like a dependent, is caught doing something stupid, they're turned over to the military police, not taken to Japanese jail or Korean jail, which is not a place you want to go. So this one is a visiting forces agreement. I think what we're looking at here is they're going to be establishing a regimen of joint exercises. They're going to do that cross-training shit I was talking about. So the idea might be that there's going to be like a sort of a contingent of Canadian forces there to help facilitate the arriving for training Canadians, if that makes sense. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think we kind of have the same thing. And there's also some allowance for the Canadians to use Filipino bases instead of having to set up their own, crappy camps. Because Philippines, being in the sticks in the Philippines is it's not pleasant. If you're not used to that kind of thing, it's like even compared to Afghanistan, that shit was fucking rough. At least Afghanistan's relatively dry, you know what I mean? Philippines is not by any stretch. Like the humidity just does not stop. So even nighttime sucks. One particular keynote of this VFA, or the Defense and Cooperation Agreement, is this was started on a a singular what do they call them, like single issue voters, right? So they had a single issue agreement with between Canada and the Philippines using a system referred to as a technology system, not like a physical ship or anything, but it's a device vessel or dark vessel detection. That's what Canada was lending to the Filipinos, and it's the idea of that tech is being able to catch like smugglers or illegal fishing operations, or the unspoken part of this is like camouflaged or cloaked, hidden Chinese vessels. That's the part they're not talking about, but it's a very important part of this agreement. It's definitely Philippines is gearing up, trying to make friends with other people, other nations, to if the shit goes down, you know what I mean? Speaking of which, Philippines and Vietnam, they also signed. This is a maritime cooperation pact. So this one's kind of a single issue kind of thing, but it's a bit more robust than just like lending technology to somebody. This is a partnership between their navies and coast guards. They're looking to cross-training again, some personnel exchanges, I think, so that they can have easier time communicating over the radio if they're in ships or whatever out in the waters, and they will be exchanging ships actually. The idea of them learning each other's technologies so that they can more seamlessly integrate with each other if the doo-doo were to hit the fan. Who is this from? President Marcos. A quote from him. They say South China Sea. We don't say that here because we're progressive and we're patriots. We're sticking up for our homies out there. Quote, "The South Asia Sea remains to be a point of contention. We are firm in defending our sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction against any provocations. But at the same time, we are also seeking to address these issues with China through peaceful dialogue and consultations as two equal sovereign states." So that's fun. There is a quote here from the Prime Minister of Vietnam. Quote, "The world and regional situation is evolving in a rapid and complicated manner, and therefore we need to unite and cooperate more closely." I'm probably going to mess up this name, but it's Pham Minh Chinh. I think I did that one. Okay. The president, Ferdinand Marcos, he met with the leadership of it's called the Vin Group. It's the largest, industrial conglomerate in Vietnam. And so they were talking about expanding trade between Philippines and Vietnam. The leader, like the chairman of the board or whatever, of the Vin Group, his name is Pham Nhat Vuong. I'm getting better at this. Right now, the current numbers are approximately 7 billion in annual trade between the two, and they're trying to increase that to about 10. Some of the particular details of what they hammered out, I think these are good. So the electronic vehicle, the fucking revolution's, it's already here, baby, and Philippines is trying to get in on it. One thing that they're doing to develop that partnership is with Philippines has strong reserves of raw material that electric vehicle batteries and other components require. Copper, nickel, I think cobalt is another one. So the Philippines has these raw materials. Being a little bit more economically disadvantaged, they have a bit of difficulty with mining, so there's going to be some establishment of Vietnamese mining firms building out the appropriate infrastructure and Filipino labor to get some reciprocal back scratching there. Hire on a lot of Filipinos to work at the mines. But there you go. Philippines and Vietnam are putting shit together. Still on Philippines here. Interesting thing that came out over the weekend was the Philippines is actually in the bottom third of the World Press Freedom Index, 132nd out of 180. So I did not catch her name. Damn it, I should have. But it was a UN special envoy that assesses freedom of speech, freedom of the press, that kind of stuff. And the assessment was that the Philippines is a very dangerous place to be a journalist. There have been a lot of journalists who, regardless of if it was President Duterte or Marcos, it's not a good place to be a journalist. A lot of retribution killings. There was also the recommendation, and I think that they're going to take it, is the Philippines still has an anti-communist task force. It's not just like McCarthy type of stuff. It's also that the communist rebellion is armed and they were going hard in the paint. You know what I mean? So President Marcos is making attempts to bring the communist groups to the negotiating table, try to broker some kind of firm and lasting peace. So that, it sounds like that has not gotten underway just yet, but this is actually a perfect segue. That initiative from Marcos has soured relations with the Duterte family. Now, specifically, where I got it? Right here. So Duterte, part of his notoriety came from his like summary execution squads that he would send around. Like, if you are accused of drug, fill in the blank, whether you're simple possession, distribution, simple selling, like small personal amounts, or even just using them, like being caught high on something and just executed on the spot. So that was part of his thing. And Marcos, trying to play the reform candidate position, he ran on softening those policies, and that it's not, it's not going to cause any problems because that's not the way you handle it, which I agree. But in order to keep Duterte satisfied, Marcos he ran with Rodrigo's daughter Sarah as his running mate, and yeah, so that was kind of the trade of like, she would be the one to temper Marcos and his quote unquote like super liberal thinking, which is really dumb because he's definitely not. But so the problem we're having now is that Marcos and Duterte are starting to smear each other in the media, accusing each other of being like drug addicts or recreational drug abusers. So with Duterte's very firm stance on drug use, and then for Marcos to throw it back in his face, it's not good. Sorry, I got a message here. Let's see here. It's a think tank in the Philippines. It's called the Center for People Empowerment in Governance. Think tank. That's still a strange phrase to me, but whatever. The chair of that group, Tamario Rivera, said this: "This opportunistic political alliance was not meant to last," end quote. But noted surprise that, quote, "the break seems to be taking place rather very early," end quote. So that's kind of weird. Yeah, not expecting it to last. I think fucking anybody who knows even a little bit about Filipino politics, you would have seen this shit coming a mile away. I was surprised that Marcos even had Sarah on his fucking card, but whatever. One of the biggest divides that they have here is that Marcos, him and his sort of faction of support in the Philippines, which is the like Luzon, Visayas parts, is more of pro-West, pro-US, pro-Canada. And Duterte is pro-China. One thing, like I had mentioned, the Filipino government trying to bring the communist rebel groups to the negotiating table for peace. Sarah Duterte had a lot to say about it, but this little summary right here works best. It's an agreement with the devil. Duterte is one of those. I think I think populist definitely applies here. It's weird how like he's. Well, it's not weird actually. Being hard right, authoritarian type of guy, and loving China and Xi Jinping's fucking autocracy. No surprise there. But in one of the recent media appearances that Duterte had, where he was saying that Marcos is a drug abuser, he started talking about he's really popular in Mindanao. That's the southern region that he's from. His son is like the governor or the mayor of the biggest city and all the rest of it. Like the Duterte family's very influential there, and he's been calling for the Mindanao region to secede from the Philippines. It's unfortunate that this is like it's unfortunate, but it's also it's ironic that they're mirroring, like their hardliners are kind of mirroring the same things that ours are here in the U.S. But the defense minister, Gilberto Teodoro, he vowed to. Let me just give you his words here. The mandate of the Department of National Defense is to secure the sovereignty of the state and integrity of the national territory as enshrined in the Constitution. We will strictly enforce this mandate, whether externally or internally. The Minister of Justice also backed this up with saying that they stand firmly against any attempts to undermine the country's sovereign territories or territorial integrity, and called on citizens to reject secessionist ideologies. The AFP, the chief of the AFP, Romeo Bronner, he went to visit bases in Mindanao, and he was telling the troops his words: "We swore an oath that we will always follow the chain of command, be loyal to the Constitution, and our duly constituted authorities. Let us continue to show that with a strong and united AFP. We will have a strong and united Philippines." So there's a group, the Muslim fundamentalists that are they're a terrorist faction that operates in Mindanao called the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. That's a great acronym, guys. Good one. They have been Moro. Let me kind of give a little bit of history on that. The term Moro is what Filipinos used to call themselves before any of the colonizers ever arrived. So that's what a lot of these Mindanao secessionist types, like they would refer to themselves as Moros, not Filipinos. And if I recall, it was a delicate negotiating process for them to unite at any point, and it's always been like a delicate sort of balance, with Mindanao being a lot more Muslim than Catholic, while the rest of Philippines is very Catholic. But I really cannot help but think that Duterte is doing this to undermine his rival in Ferdinand Marcos. But with China, him being more friendly to China, and I think that he would be closer to the Spratly Islands chain, and so he would definitely be the type to just let them have it. And of course, the Filipino government's not going to allow that. Yeah, this is a pretty nasty way to sow some discord, man. Dangerous stuff. It sounds like this is the pact with the U.S. We've had one with the Philippines for a long time. Canada's now on board here, and Vietnam as well. So fun. Okay, the fun does not stop in the Philippines. It never fucking does. Let's see here. This was a recent thing where some hackers were trying to break into a few different high-level agencies in the Filipino government, as well as some high-level individuals, particularly the president, among others. So that's kind of spooky. Now, this is a fucking mouthful here. The Department of Information and Communications Technology is, the DICT. I don't know. Renato Baraiso is the head of that agency or whatever. Quote, "We are not attributing this to any state, but using IP addresses, we pinpointed it to China." Now, what further information on this is that IP address block, which is how they're segmented by regions, like the entire globe. Like there are particular regions, like blocking China or what any other regions refer to as geo-blocking. So the set of addresses that those hack attempts came from are owned by the Chinese ISP, the service provider that Unicom, which is a state-owned utility, I guess. So while the Filipinos, Paraiso's trying to play a little bit more diplomatically with saying that they're going to be appealing to the Chinese government to help, I'm not saying it's you, but they're doing it on your stuff. So if you know about it, why don't you can you help us out with that? Yeah. So does that? I don't know if ISP is owned and operated by a government entity for everyone. Yeah, I mean, all sorts of bad actors are gonna be doing shit. So. I guess it's the right play. A flood in the Philippines. At least 20 are confirmed dead at the moment. Still more missing. Heavy rains over the last couple of weeks. I think it's like a week and a half, but causing a lot of floods and landslides. 812,000 people have been displaced by this, and 85,000 of those are taking refuge in regional evacuation centers. As much as I wanted to say this is a pretty standard for the Philippines. It's not it's not overtly caused by climate change, or a symptom of climate change. This is just like standard. This is baseline for Philippines, unfortunately. Something like 24 approximate tropical storms hit the Philippines in any given year. It's pretty nuts. But there you go. That wraps up the Philippines. All right, making good time. Moving to Myanmar or Burma, whichever you prefer. I looked into that. So Burma, when the military overthrew the government, something like 50 years ago. So after that, there were horrendous human rights abuses, violations, and all kinds of terrible shit happening at the hands of the military junta. So they tried to try to appear to be doing better. They changed their name to Myanmar, which is in their language that Burma translates to Myanmar. So they didn't really change it at all. They just change the language, like Germany and Deutschland. That's, I think, a good analogy. But like changing their name to Myanmar, nobody bought that for a second. Like, oh, it's a more inclusive term. Okay. Yeah, include everyone in your fucking killing fields. Right, so there is a problem, actually, with the junta right now, where a lot of the populace, and what's most notable is the pro-junta population, like online people, influencers, I guess, and also community influencers like religious leaders and stuff, and even pro-junta journalists. I expect you can't really be anything but pro-junta. But anyway, so they're all starting to call for the current, I think they use the term commander-in-chief, but 67-year-old General Min Aung, oh fuck, it's Hlaing. That's Hlang. I think I got it. I'm just going to go with General Min. So the military has been dealing with a lot of rebellions. We've talked about them before. There was a good portion of it that was mediated by the Chinese. They brokered the peace talks, and those are still working. Like, it's complete self-interest. They only negotiate or help negotiate the shit at the border between Myanmar and China. So we talked about this one. I believe we talked about it at length. But the rest of the country is still in turmoil. Ethnic minorities are the militias that are rebelling against the junta. And the junta has since lost control of 35 towns. And what is it? They started in October. They called it Operation 1027 for whatever reason. I don't know what the significance of that is. Maybe because it started in October 10th, so it started on the 27th, I guess. I don't know. But yep, this is the junta has been in power for upwards of 50 years. And this is the first time that the pro-junta population has been speaking out against it in a serious way. So, yep. The junta is starting to use a lot more heavy firepower, like airstrikes, heavy artillery against the different militias. And there's a shadow government, so that's pretty cool, I guess. The resistance has a lot more structure. So that's fun. Not fun at all. Just to clarify. I don't know, just in case one of those enlightened centrists is, anarcho-centrists is going to tell me about my, you're just a fucking you're still playing the two sides game. I'll get to that more, I guess, in the U.S. edition, because this isn't the time or place. Okay, now, Indonesia presidential campaign, should be soon. What's today, the 6th? So, yes, next week. Next Wednesday. What is it? There was a poll conducted by Indicator Politik Indonesia, is the name of the group. The current defense minister, his name is Prabowo Subianto. His lead expands to just under half, and that number is important. He's at like 49% and change. So his running mate is Bigran Rakabuming. goodness gracious. He is the son of the current president, Joko Widodo. We talked about Joko a while back with that high-speed train that the Chinese built out there. Right. So I think having the son of the current president is, it's a good running mate to have, especially if the current president is popular, which he is. Jakarta government. Anies Baswedan is polling at approximately 24%. Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo, approximately 21%. So that 49% is key for Prabowo in his bid, because the Indonesian government requires 50% plus one to win to win it outright, and that's of 205 million registered voters. And if one of them doesn't get the simple majority on their own, then they have to do a runoff. The top two get a runoff, and that's in June. Good times are being had by all. Okay, India. This one was kind of interesting to read about. The temple that was... it's been up and running for like 2-3 weeks at this point, but the Hindu deity Lord Ram, I'm going to go with Ram, opened already. There was a consecration ceremony. Something interesting is that, like, this is a deity, but this is according to legend or myth or whatever, this is the place where Ram was born on Earth? I don't know. So the BJP, that's the Bharatiya Janata Party. They're Hindu nationalists. This was a promise that Narendra Modi, the current prime minister, made back when he was still... before he was running for high office. This was a promise he was already talking about. Now he's going to be running for his third term. The elections are in a few months, in May. And if I'm not mistaken, while it's not prohibited, it's highly irregular for a PM to run for a third term. Not sure why they do that, but why they do or don't, I guess. But so back to the temple. In the early 90s, there was a mosque that was erected there, and that was like 500 something years ago. So it'd been there for a while. And in the 90s, a mob of Hindus destroyed the whole fucking thing, and they called it that they said that the spot was holy for Hindus before the Muslim, the ethnic group Mughals, that are the Muslims, destroyed the Hindu temple that was in the spot. And that was in like 1520 something, 1530 maybe. It's a long ass time ago. The Supreme Court of India in 2019 pretty much told the Muslims to eat shit, and like they allocated the land like by mandate to the Hindus for this purpose. And the Muslim community, they took it with a bit of grace. That's good. The exact words from Zufar Ahmad Farooqi, who's the head of the Indo-Islamic Cultural Foundation. His words here is, the construction of the temple is going on as per the direction of the Supreme Court, so we welcome it. I don't think there's any feeling of ill will in the Muslim community. So that's nice. The temple project was approximately $180 million, something in the neighborhood of 15 billion rupees. And the new mosque being built is 15 miles away. So I did hear some interviews with just, run-of-the-mill local people, Muslims in particular, that about this mosque being built so far away, there's a distinct feeling of being unwanted. Not at all an unfounded thing to perceive, because what Modi is a very heavy-handed fellow, so this is actually a pretty decent outcome for the Muslims here. They were like their mosque, the funds for the mosque to be built, remade elsewhere were also, I think they were part of the Hindu temple project. So that's nice. Could have been a lot worse for the Hindus there, but still, Modi's a dick. No other way around it, unfortunately. Modi's a fucking dick. Did we talk about? No, we talked about something about the Kashmir region. So moving along, something in North Korea, the South and North Development Institute, they go by SAND. Fucking fantastic. 2 teenagers were sentenced to 12 years of hard labor in North Korea. Fuck, that sucks. Their crime was having possession, and having also viewed it multiple times, I'm certain, but having possession of K-pop music videos and South Korean movies. Oh my god. The video is from about 2019, 2020, and it was just it just came to light a few weeks ago, or a few months ago. What is the narrator? I believe this was for I think the narrator is speaking in like the courtroom or whatever where they're being sentenced, and the words that were being said were, they were seduced by foreign culture and it ended up ruining their lives. No, that was the video narrator, not the courtroom. Sorry. There were also some young ladies that were going to be sent to prison for having South Korean hairstyles. Let that shit sink in. Their hairstyles. I don't think they got 12 years, but now maybe you're wondering, maybe you're not. I'm gonna tell you either way. Hairstyles are moderated by the government? Question mark? Why yes they are. There are less than 10 permitted hairstyles for men and less than 20 for women. As I read, because it's state mandated, the salons and barbershops are also run by the state. So you North Korean fucking citizen, you walk into wherever, or you make your appointment, then you show up and you just point to the one you want, because that's all you get. Oh fuck. And they're mandatory reporters. If they ask for something different, then the barbers have to report it. That's what the SAND people were saying. So, a quote from the president of the SAND Institute and the doctor of political science and professor at Tokyo University, Choi Kyung-hui. I nailed that one. I lived there, so I got that one good. This is actually defector from North Korea, defected in 2001. So their words: judging from the heavy punishment, it seems that this is to be shown to people across North Korea to warn them. It appears this lifestyle of South Korean culture is prevalent in North Korean society. What is troublesome for Kim Jong-un is that millennials and Gen Z people have changed their way of thinking. I think he's working on turning it back to the North Korean way. Yeah. Make an example of a couple people and see how little they want to deviate from the state-mandated plan. I have heard people talk a lot, or have seen conversations on the internet at least, of people wondering if war with Korea were to happen, what would happen to the people? Like, because their military is running on fucking duct tape and hopes and dreams. There's not a whole lot that they have on their own. I'm not including China or Russian support. So they themselves, they have, I think, the estimations are they have enough fuel and ammunition and stuff to sustain combat with South Korea for like a month, and that's being pretty fucking generous. So you can expect it's mandatory service, compulsory service. I think men have to serve like 10 years or something, and women have to serve 7. That was the last time I checked. So you have to wonder, what I see people wonder is just how indoctrinated is the population after their military service, because while they're in, there's not a fucking chance that they're gonna speak out on anything. But the question always is, what happens to the people if South Korea were to invade North Korea for whatever reason? What would the civilian population do? Because that's a big it's a big question mark. So it's gonna be a real test of we're gonna find out real quickly just how deeply brainwashed. I don't know why it took me so long to get that word, but how deeply brainwashed they are. The estimations that I've read throughout my time is that the further away you get from Pyongyang, the capital, the more likely it is that while you're probably not going to be greeted as a liberator or anything like that, or like you're not going to be met with applause or anything, chances are likely that if nobody's watching them, which like the further away you get, the less monitoring there is, that they're more than likely just gonna like move out of your way, and they're going to. It has to be a critical mass of people that make the shift. Has to be they have to see each other doing it, so it's just a matter of who's the catalyst. But I think that there would be a lot of people that would fight the North Korean government. Maybe not the military, because like those are their cousins and brothers and sisters and shit. So maybe not them, but the government themselves would definitely be a target for the civilian population. Like anybody who would tell you that they would just run at you with a fucking table knife if that's all they have, you've only seen YouTube videos of Pyongyang. That's all you've seen is like state-run media. That's not they're not all like that for sure. They're not. They would if they knew nobody was watching or anything, or if they knew that they weren't being recorded by anyone, like there have been some secret tapings of people like speaking their minds, and they're saying that the majority of them know that this, like, what they're, it's a facade. It's bullshit. They know it is. And they know that life is good everywhere else. They know that South Korea is not like some puppet of the U.S. at all. We're good allies, yeah, but that's mostly to the benefit of South Korea. So I think a lot of them would kind of step out of the way. Yeah, long way to get to that point, but I wouldn't worry about them too much. There will be some who are, whatever, like to the death, but the bulk of them would not, because they're pretty fucking tired of the life they have, and they see through the illusions that the state puts in front of their eyes to try to keep them in fear of us, of the West, of South Korea. They get it. They know. Right. Korea of North. They have been testing new cruise missiles, and they've had 4 tests in the last week on both the East and West Coast. So the KCNA, that's a Korean Central News Agency, it's a state-run media in the North. They've been referring to these as strategic cruise missiles, and what has been inferred by experts is that these are newer models of nuclear payload delivery. So spooky stuff. Recently, Kim Jong-un visited some ports, some of the naval ports that he has. His phrase here, or his saying here, is strengthening naval force is the most important issue in pushing ahead with war preparations. Woof. How is it that in a country that has to ration because they have to devote all of their resources to military war preparation, so a lot of people fucking starve so much so that they are genetically distinct from South Koreans. That's how much famine they've had to endure. They are on average 4 to 6 inches shorter than South Koreans. And so now the point that I'm trying to make, or the main question I'm trying to ask, is how is it that the people starve, they have to go hungry, and how the fuck is Kim Jong-un so fucking fat? How does he continue to get fatter? How in the fuck is he such a big tub of shit? How is it possible? That's what I mean when I say, like, these people see what's happening. Like, they might be cut off from the world, but they're not stupid. So, like, they're uncertain of where their next meal is coming from, while homeboy is still, he's drinking fucking Crevassier that's more than the GDP of the entire country or something. I don't know the prices of that shit, but you get what I mean. Right. Wow. Okay. Let me try to, I think I might be able to breeze through these a little bit, but this is Taiwan stuff. Just catching up since the election. Like I said, Lai Ching-te, the current vice president, William Lai is the president-elect. He won with approximately 40% of the vote. The Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, they lose the majority of parliament. The current president, just a little bit of a measurement here. The current president, Tsai Ing-wen, he won his re-election bid with over 50% of the vote. So that's a bit of a distinction. It's a bit of a drop in, William Lai has been running on the idea of maintaining the status quo. That was one of his major party platforms. So for that to drop that significantly, because he's the vice president right now, okay, so and he's the heir apparent to the current president, who was very popular. It's a bit odd. I think less people are satisfied with the status quo. Another one of his points, his like platform points, were his he is resolutely going to defend Taiwan's sovereignty from threats and intimidation, his words. But he has also he's been doing the most, trying to make it clear that he is open to dialogue with China. He's not 100% against any sort of relationship with them, but the premise is that they meet on equal footing, that they're both sovereign nations meeting together, and naturally China's not going to go for that. The Taiwan Affairs Office, it's a fucking ministry in Beijing. They have their own Department of Government. Said that the DPP winning the presidency again, that it, quote, cannot represent the mainstream public opinion. Our stance on resolving the Taiwan question and realizing national reunification remains consistent, and our determination is as firm as a rock. I'm gonna be honest with you. I say this all the time. I fucking hate when people do World War II analogies. I don't like it. But when I hear resolving the Taiwan question, it makes me think of Mein Kampf and resolving the Jewish question. That's why that phrase makes me a little uneasy. Our stance on resolving the Taiwan question is what? Putting troops on the ground, a gun to everyone's head. Like, is Taiwan a sovereign nation, or is it not? Or is it a part of China? And you blast anyone who disagrees or who doesn't give the right answer. That's 100% me making that up. That has no basis in reality. Just what my mind comes to when I hear the Taiwan question. Now, speaking of the Taiwan question, there have been repeated incursions from China to crossing the Taiwan Strait, which China refuses to acknowledge it as a true national boundary. And so they've been, on the 17th, just after the election was decided, 18 Chinese Air Force planes crossed and went all around Taiwan, saying that they were conducting joint combat readiness patrols with the Navy. Fun. And actually earlier today, the Defense Ministry announced another detection of 9 Chinese Air Force craft that crossed the Taiwan Strait. So it is par for the course. They do this shit all the time. I think they're partly trying to build some complacency in Taiwan. But the 18 with naval ships standing by as well, that is a pretty significant show of force. So that in itself, that is not normal. Wait, They do this every time there's a... They've been... Ever since the DPP's been winning the presidency, they've been doing stuff like this. So, I guess it is. Fuck. What a shitty situation. But, more fun, I think, last week. More fun for Taiwan, anyway. They did a pretty large show of force where they demonstrated some Air Force tech that they have. That is some different planes that are, one, able to detect subs pretty deep and from pretty far away, and then other planes that are able to carry immense air to ground, but specifically into the water, that sort of payload to attack any subs that, you know, go awry. Now, a lot of it like, when I was reading this, it read like a fucking advertisement, how much they were talking about different defense contractors. And I'm not gonna give them any of my breath. Fuck them. Okay, now, one last thing on Taiwan is there was a flight path that, what do they call it? It's they call it Mark 503. That's the name of the flight path that China uses. That they changed the flight path, and it's now crossing into Taiwanese airspace. So, you know, disrupting the status quo, as a President-elect Lai likes to say. So the new routes would be a 7-kilometer incursion in the Taiwanese Strait, the midway point. So because of that, the Taiwanese air defenses would be triggered, high alert. You know what I mean? But the Taiwanese Defense Ministry specified that they could accommodate this change in flight path, but were insistent that if they do, it's just a matter of time before the Chinese do it again. Chinese insist this is a civil easement on the route called Mark 503, which is typically used for civilian flights. And like I had said, they insist there is no midway line, so they're not violating any airspace. They're only in their own airspace in an indirect way. But this is the third time they've done this since 2015. As the Taiwanese Defense Ministry said, if they change their protocol to accommodate this change in protocol from the Chinese, then it's just going to keep happening until they get closer and closer and closer. The Taiwanese mentioned, they kind of flexed a little bit, saying that any unauthorized flights that go into their Air Defense Identification Zone, ADIZ, I guess it's their own demilitarized zone, in a way. In a different way, I guess. Maybe not at all. Will be, quote, dealt with in accordance with operating procedures and emergency regulations to ensure Taiwan's safety. Fun. I have to say that I admire Taiwan's restraint, because this happens. It's like every fucking week there's 2 or 3 stories exactly like this. Maybe not with the a big change in civil aviation protocol, but like those kinds of incursions from the Chinese happens all the time. So that's some serious restraint. I cannot help but think that there are some international partners in their ear saying, like, be cool, man. If the shit pops off, you know, we got your back. So just gotta hold it together. If they do something, hold it together for a few days, and we'll be there. So that's nice. Philippines is right there. The homies are ready to roll, son. Oh boy. I cannot say that I would like this to happen. I don't know why anybody would. It's weird. Well, it's not weird. It's like China has a lot of the world fucking by the nuts. You know what I mean? They major trade partners with a lot of people, and if people like a lot of these are like formerly colonized nations, so they feel some kinship with Taiwan. And like Guatemala's new president, he's actually dialing down his relationship with China and turning it up with Taiwan. Like, that's the exact point I was getting to, is that that's what they would like to do, because they identify with the Taiwanese more than the Chinese. So I guess we have to keep watching. Right. Let's see. If you're one of those fucking enlightened anarcho dummies and you made it this far, thanks. I'm not sorry that I called you dumb, because you do it to me anyway, so whatever. Regardless, if there's questions or anything on what I talked about, 833 Lux Pods. If you text or call, it's anonymous. If you call, it goes straight to voicemail. If you're okay with me cutting your audio in, I will do that. If you would like for me to address it, quote unquote, on the air. But, I think, what else? lvxmedia.net is where everything is. But if you go to progressivepatriots.us, that will take you directly to the ProgPats portion. We have a merch shop. I don't think that there's anything ProgPats in there yet. lvxmedia.net/shop if you would like to see. If you have any ideas, I'm open to it. Ooh, what else? LVX Media Net on social media. That's where, if you can't find it, we're not on it. It helps a little bit. It helps a bit to interact with social media, but what helps the most is if you leave a rating wherever you're listening. If you're not feeling a $5, if you're not feeling like you're going to drop me a 5-star, text me. Let me know why, because I would rather hear what issues you have and try to improve and earn the remaining stars to get to 5. So, if you have the time, I would love a review. If it's funny or something, I'll read it out here. So yeah, that's gonna do it. I'm gonna have to come back again. I say it, yeah, like broken fucking record, but I'm gonna try to be back because there's a lot of shit in Europe that's going on. Africa, I'm sure, has continued to be terrible, not by their own doing entirely. The heat wave in Australia that I talked about before, the shit's still going, and the brush fire risk is getting worse. So I don't know. Get your what fucking celebrities did it for the last time? Like, everybody's wearing fucking bracelets and shit or whatever. Like, but I'm certain that those same people, I'm sure that they're going to pay plenty of attention to the situations in Philippines or Africa. Right. If you are able to help these are all just donating money. That's what I got. All of these are good organizations. I looked into them quite a bit, and I've made sure that this is going to do the most good with however much you're able to give. And so the shorthand link, as always, lvx.at, but so after lux.at / and then you put in whichever one: Afghanistan, Myanmar, Sudan, Congo, Palestine, Ukraine. So, yeah. One more thing, if you would like to get involved, there is, if you're a veteran, this is a veterans group in particular, so it's called Common Defense. It's a US-based national thing. While they don't put a lot of emphasis on foreign policy, not a lot, mostly just being like pro peace kind of thing. Anyway, they don't put a lot of emphasis on foreign policy, but the types of people that Common Defense tries to push, they endorse them for office, help them with their campaigns and stuff. Those are the types of candidates who, if they were to take office, would actively try to help these kinds of situations that I described, or in the nations that I listed anyway. So if you want to do that, lux.at/CDEF, CDEF for Common Defense. If you do join, they have like a monthly big old Zoom session for everybody to get together. We kind of, whatever. If you join, you'll see what it is. And if you do, and you go to one of the meetings, let them know I sent you, because you and me, we might get like a T-shirt or something. Like it's a vets. I think it's a Vets Against Trump T-shirt. I would very much like one, and I would rather not have to buy it. Not that I wouldn't, because if it comes down to it, I'm gonna buy it. But if we can get one for free, I mean, why not? So there you go. That's gonna do it. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time, and yep, we'll see you next time.